Good evening there, my friends, and welcome back to Carpo's channel. This video is about pharmaceuticals. My name is Josh, and welcome to my channel if you're new. I know that most people who come to a video like this might be new to the channel. I just wanted people to know that talking about things like pharmaceuticals and the pharmaceutical industry really seem to go nowhere. I mean, there are 1,000 documentaries and books about how bad America really is. I believe we rank 27th in healthcare overall. There are many other countries that are doing much better. It's not because they have necessarily better medicine, it's because they better manage their costs. But what I'd like to say first off is that I'm one of the fortunate ones, one of the few lucky ones. I haven't needed a doctor much in my life. Sure, I've gone a few times and I've paid cash to see one. Most of the money I've spent has been at the dentist. But as far as having insurance, I haven't had health insurance since I was 20 years old, when I was broke and I was able to get state-funded health insurance for a little while. Got my wisdom teeth pulled, never needed a doctor. And to this day, if I would have paid insurance every month, I would have never needed it, and it would have been exorbitant. I think it was just this year or last year that the cost for the average family for health care per year became around over $20,000 on average. This is ludicrous and absolutely unnecessary for most people. Meaning that in the 20 years my wife would have been together, I mean, I can't even fathom spending more than my house on health care. But a lot of people, when they get to my age at 45, they start to wonder if they're going to have health care or even be able to take care of ourselves. We are often one accident away from complete annihilation of our funds or our health. And I think why it's frustrating, I should talk about this more, and I plan to, but I'm writing a book. I've been working on it for now. It's been around 4 years. It's crazy. It's not that I've obviously been working on it that long. It's that I set it aside. I add some new pages, then something new happens. Since I've started writing the book, it's only about 60 pages, but the Sackler family has had lawsuits against them. Many different things have happened. But I don't want to go into too much detail. I want to keep this pretty raw and to the point for people who maybe just don't really realize how corrupt it really is. Like I said, the average insurance is over $1,000 a month for a family, and you can't get, it doesn't even cover routine care or preventative maintenance. Things are considered cosmetic, even things like crowns if you have a bad tooth. And some people have better teeth than others. But the insurance companies are well known for trying as hard as they can to deny claims when you actually do need something. I've read that there was 22% of the fees in insurance are hidden fees that we just kind of deal with and pay for. The out-of-pocket cost is hefty. And the thing that some people realize is if you pay cash, you can pay up to 10 times less. There were stories I read, one guy who went to buy medication for his wife. He didn't have his insurance card, so he says, if I pay cash, how much will it be? She gave him the price, and it was something like $20, whereas it was $200 something with the insurance card. He's like, it's 10 times cheaper buying cash. It's like, yeah, because that's how much these insurance companies can bill, and these companies can just charge the insurance companies ridiculous amounts, and it just comes out of your pocket. Now, the actual number, when I said 20 grand, I did read somewhere the number I wrote down was for a family of 4. It was $28,166, which is over so much money per month that a person has to wonder, what would it be like to have, say, Medicare for all? To have a nationalized healthcare system if it is properly managed. Now, there are huge downsides to this, obviously. I'm not promoting a full socialist healthcare. As many people say, the healthcare quality may go down, and this may be true. So maybe the issue isn't just to eliminate competition, but rather foster competition, allow companies to compete for insurance and hospitals instead of forcing the little guy out with overburdensome regulations. In other words, the bureaucracy and regulations to even have healthcare make it so ridiculous that we waste, on top of what we spend on healthcare, we waste from what I read, $1.3 trillion every year, like the amount of an entire stimulus check, right, to all Americans. We could save that much every year because 33% of the money that is spent on all healthcare goes to hospitals, and a total of 50% when you include nurses and doctors in those hospitals. 50% of all healthcare money, which could be spent on a lot more outpatient treatment and preventative maintenance. But you may have, in America, we're all aware that we pay more. For example, in Canada, if I'm not mistaken, in places they pay $30 for a month's supply of insulin, whereas places here in the U.S., it's over $300. It can be 10 times more money right across the border here for insulin, the same drug that's been around for a long time. Insulin has gone up ridiculous amounts over the last decade, but it's an old drug, and you have to ask yourself why. So we should allow Medicare to negotiate better with drug companies, that's for sure, but not necessarily force everyone to have socialized healthcare. You have to keep the market competitive, but eliminate those hurdles and burdens for other people to take care of you. If there's doctors that you might trust, or smaller doctors, smaller hospitals, fine. If you want to have pay a little bit less, I'm sure that there's a lot of companies that would be willing to work with people for less. However, that doesn't include the cost of the drugs they have to buy, which they still have to work with the drug companies. And the drug companies will charge them more because they want to work with their normal peeps. I'm sure we've all heard the stories of a person who went into the doctor and just had something simple and came out with thousands of dollars in bills that just crippled them. There was one story of some girl who had a problem. She went to the hospital. They released her with just an ice pack, and her bill was $5,800 just for a visit and a discussion and an ice pack. It can be $60 for ibuprofen or $40 for a Band-Aid. I don't even know the full prices, but these aren't just blown out of proportion. These are real things. This is how much they actually charge for these things. Band-Aids are a ridiculous amount for each Band-Aid because they can. Because people can't do anything about it. Because we have no protection. And this is where it becomes difficult, because while we don't want the government to interfere and people don't want socialized medicine, you also have to realize that some people would never be able to afford health care if there weren't any regulations. And we need to put more caps on prices of pharmaceuticals. That's essential. And when people say it stands in the way of money, that these companies have bought these drugs and it's their choice to make the money, bullshit. Because a lot of this is subsidized by your tax dollars. If you spend money on anything in this country, you pay any type of sales tax, any type of tax on anything, if you pay tax at all, then you're paying the drug companies at least a small amount to help subsidize the drugs, including the vaccines, various pharmaceuticals that help with pain and cancer, which, by the way, I have a chart right here that I'm going to use for this. As I was digging through my paperwork, I found a lot of the stuff I was using for the book I'm writing. It was called Sticker Shock, and this was from like 3 or 4 years ago. These were all the new drugs for cancer and rare diseases and how much they cost. So there's 4 of them for multiple myeloma. This is a yearly cost for the treatment. $110,000, $113,000, $119,000, and $140,000. And I would imagine that depends on which brand you're taking, right? There's one for metastatic breast cancer, $118,200, and I love how they added the 200. Lung cancer, $137,000, or the other treatment would be $153,000. Now these are just, the new drugs, just specific new drugs. ALK positive lung cancer, $150,000. Pulmonary arterial hypertension, $160,000 and up. Cystic fibrosis, $259,000. Repeat, that's over $250,000 for cystic fibrosis treatment. Juvenile onset hypophosphatasia, $285,000. And the last one is LAL deficiency, which I believe is a cholesterol issue. $310,000. And on top of these ridiculously increasing prices on drugs, in the year 1998, lawsuits were relatively low, or rather money paid out from drug companies to settle cases and lawsuits. It was around $3 million. Now you might wonder, how much would that increase in 10 years from 1998 to 2008? Or rather 2009. You might think, what, did it double to 6 million or even quadruple? No. It didn't even go up 10 times or 20 times. It didn't even go up 50 times or 100 times or 500 times. It increased 1,000-fold. And this chart is really low. It's in the low millions for several years, and then all of a sudden it jumps from 3 million to 10 million, then to 100 million, and it keeps going. And over 9 years, it jumps all the way up to 100 and what was it? Yeah, it went from $3 million to $3 million to $4.4 billion, which is well over actually 1.5 thousand times more. It's just absolutely insane. And these lawsuits have continued, or rather these payouts. And so yeah, I could probably go on, really go off on this for a really long time and talk about it, but there's only so much to say. It just costs a lot to have the type of capitalist healthcare system that we do have, and I'm not sure what to do about it. I'm not sure how we can improve it. I know that one day I'm going to need it. I know that one day I'm going to have an issue and I'm going to need the doctor. You know, I've got this cut on my finger. I never got it taken care of. I can't feel the tip of my finger because I didn't want to go to the doctor because I can't afford it. Any doctor could have sewn that up 5 minutes, lickety-split, and been done with it. But we lag. Last time I went to the emergency room because I cut myself, I had workman's comp because I was working as a carpenter for someone. And I went in there and simple, 10 stitches, a little cut across my thigh, but it was deep. Fortunately, it wasn't bleeding deep, because if my leg had been a little bit further to the side, I would have cut my femoral artery, and I would have maybe even died because I was up on a roof. So I had them take care of that after I spent 2 hours, 3 hours in the waiting room, even though there was nobody there, and they brought me in there and did their thing, and then I don't even know how much the bill was, but thank God I had that workman's comp. And let me just tell you, I never would have probably gone if I didn't. I was hanging out with a friend of mine when I was like 20 years old, and I was carving a stick with a chisel, carving a walking stick, and I slid it down. I was being stupid, holding my hands like this, and it slid, and it went whoosh. The chisel went right down here into the crux of my hand, slid down. It must have been at least 2 full inches. I'm not kidding. Chunk. And I looked down, and I could look inside there and like see the tendons between my hand there. Didn't go to the hospital because I didn't have insurance. I was scared that I'd get charged too much. I was young, didn't have the money. So I just cleaned some of the crap out as much as I could. And then I grabbed a needle and thread, tried to sew it shut. My friend actually literally went in and puked in the bathroom. He was like, oh my God, that's disgusting. He couldn't handle it. But I did manage to just seal it up with tape. And then I put, funny as it is, a film container back then, a regular film container. We used to use that to store our cannabis in, so I had it full of weed. I just stuck it in here like that and then taped it up, and I just used it for my stash candy while I waited for a couple weeks for that to heal. Easily could have gone to the hospital and had that fixed too. To this day, I still get numbness in my thumb sometimes, but it actually did heal up really nice. So anyhow, I've had a lot of wounds, but let me just say, sometimes, even for a simple thing, I bought a stapler, a medical stapler, in case I ever have to sew myself up or staple myself. It's just unfortunate to live in a place where you even have to worry about that, even when there's a doctor present or a hospital present. And on top of the fact that there's high dollar paid, it's not necessary, and a lot of the money goes to bureaucracy, to administration, and to the drug companies. So that's what I've got for today, and thanks for listening. I've got a lot more to say about the pharmaceutical industry and American healthcare, but it seems a little bit pointless. There's only so much you can really say. I even wanted to write an actual physical book about it, and I thought, no, I don't want another book about pills and pharma. We've all heard the stories before, and maybe that's why I haven't finished it in a few years. I need to add a little twist to it. I don't know, add something that no other books have. Maybe I just make the first page just a sheet of acid, or something. I'm kidding. But that does bring me to, I guess, another point I would like to make before I go, which is that the drug companies are making their money. Pharma's making their money, right? The doctors, everyone else. So a lot of people choose to go a natural route, such as taking kratom, smoking cannabis. And instead of just being left alone, a lot of these drug companies demonize people for what they choose to do. It's preposterous. Not just the people, but they literally go out of their way to spend money on advertising against things that they don't like, that might compete with their bottom line. CBD, THC, cannabis, yeah, they have limited returns. There are beneficial pharmaceuticals and whatnot. But the thing is, there's certain things that we're not allowed to advertise, right? You can't sell LSD on television, but you sure as hell can't get this in the mail. Luckies. Let's see what's in here. My son got this. I just brought it in because I was going to say how sad it is. He quit smoking, and he's been vaping, so now, of course, they're going to send you an advertisement. Oh, it's got Leanne Mueller and Allison Clem from Austin, Texas, from La Barbecue. It's got Matt Isbell, Memphis Cigar Box Guitars. So these are real people, right? Meet the originals. This is bullshit. Fucking garbage. I mean, the fact that these cigarette companies are still sending this shit out is bad enough. But then you see ads for Chantix and stuff like that, which is, I think, the quit smoking aid. They can put drug ads anywhere and just a whole list of side effects. And look, I'm not anti-medicine. I'm anti-medicine that requires another medicine to overcome the side effects from another medicine, which is for another medicine. And that's where you get elderly people taking, that's why healthcare is so expensive for elderly people. It's probably a lot of the drugs that we take. When Prozac came out, coincidentally, I think in the late 80s, all of a sudden there was a tenfold increase in a short period of time. I think within just the first few years, there was a four to 10 times. I don't recall which it was. I think it was 10-time increase in depression all of a sudden. Were Americans all of a sudden just more depressed overnight? I don't think so. It was the realization that people are telling you in these commercials that you're sad. Everybody's seen the drug commercials with the depressed, rain clouds and all the, I haven't seen them in years because I'm disgusted by them. I haven't had cable in a long time. But, yeah, they're pretty pathetic, and they really try to get people convinced that there's something wrong with you to the point where you always need a pill every single day to overcome your depression and anxiety, and it's bullshit. At best, have short-term answers for those things, Even if you have to take Valium or Xanax, I would prefer Xanax because it's shorter acting and it's just good for panic attacks. Then you go back to your normal life. You don't have to be high all the time. Cannabis is short-lived. Having a shot of booze for some people is short-lived. But these drugs can last days in your system, and they're built up to the point where you're never normal, never straight, never sober. Even taking kratom is pretty mild. I mean, most of the time you don't feel like you're high. It's just that if people take a lot, they get tired and sleepy and whatnot. So anyhow, psychedelics, before I go over the main point here, with all the drugs, it was psychedelics that really brought me into my awareness of plant teachers, if you will, plant medicine. Nature is the medicine. Nature is the teacher. And I know a lot of people don't believe in, going out in nature and talking to nature and getting answers. But let me just say this. You should try it sometime. And it's not the same kind of thing as talk to Jesus and you'll get answers from God. This isn't a religious thing. This is how humans were meant to connect to their surroundings, their environment. But be aware of placebo effect as well. A lot of people are out there taking new substances and they think they're the be-all, end-all and the answer to all their problems. And they're not. No drug is. There is no quick answer. But psychedelics are different because it's not the drug itself. It's what it allows your mind to do, to process some of the shortcomings in our own lives, which can lead to healthier decisions, better relationships, better self-management, healthier diet. Therefore, psychedelics can actually make a person less prone to even need the healthcare system at all, because it makes people often want to be better people for themselves. And since we've all been down over the last year, I think depression and anxiety is one of the ones that people really need to overcome the most. And so I wish you all well. And you might, it's hard, but you can turn over your thoughts in just a night, a day. The first sunny day you have, go out and do some gardening. I woke up unmotivated today, and then I started working on my dryer, which was broken. Then I went out and I worked on my car. I finally got the coil out. Then I fixed the brakes on my bus, which they were all messed up, and I felt proud of myself, come back in and got my video edited that I was going to do about modern art, which is kind of pretentious but fun. And so I just wanted to make this and talk about pharma, and it turned out being longer than I thought. But when people are paying $5,800 to go to the doctor and get an ice pack, it's kind of a subject you can't really wear out. And until it affects you as an individual, most people don't care. Look, I've spent thousands of dollars at the dentist, so I know the cost. And as I said, even if you do have insurance, not only do they try to fight the cases, but there's certain things that are denied. It doesn't cover routine, maintenance. And there's a deductible, which, you just can't win, right? Let me know your thoughts again, and thanks for listening. And if you want to support the channel, join Patreon. My patrons will get first access to the book when I do get it done. And I'm working on the final part of it right now. So what I'm going to do is send a free copy to my patrons when it's done first. And then I may get it published, but I think it's important to talk about these issues in a way that we can reference them. So I have a lot of specific drugs in the book that are nailed down as to when they were manufactured, what they were used for, things like Milltown, which was an early psychiatric drug used in the 50s and 60s, or methicillin, which basically Valium kind of took that place of that one. That's when they called it Mother's Little Helper. Hey, are you a housewife? Take Valium. But anyhow, that's a story for another time. Talk to y'all next time. Be well. Take care of each other. And try to take care of your health, and you might not need to go to the doctor, right?